Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining. We are going to give folks one more minute before we get started, and then we'll get kicked off.
Good afternoon. So sorry for the delay. Nice to see everybody joining. Give me 1 second and then we will get started. I don't know who's on that's sharing the screen. So thank you. Okay, well, good afternoon. So sorry for the slight delay. I will get us started right away so that we can hopefully answer the many questions I'm sure you have about moving forward with print. So give me 1 second, please. Great. So thank you for your patience. As we jump into this, please use the chat for urgent questions, especially if you need help with something. And then also if you could use the Q&A, this will help us to keep track of any questions that we were unable to answer if time does not allow, or we need to get back to you for additional information. Before we get into this, I also want to share that on the TCLAS webpage on TEA, we will be posting recordings and slides afterwards, so you'll be able to have some additional information there as well. So I'm going to get started. Elia, if you could give me a thumbs up that we're good with the screen. Awesome. Okay. With all of that, my name is Melissa Lautenschlager. I'm the Director of Instructional Materials and Implementation Division here at TEA, and I'm joined by Elia Simons, our content lead for Open Ed. Elia, if you want to say hi.
Hi, everybody. Excited to be here today. Thank you, Melissa.
We're going to be your guides as we talk through print materials and the awards, but I first want to just welcome you, congratulate you on your award. We're really diving into print access for two important decisions. Decision 2B, which is our Tier 1 high quality instructional materials for core instruction. And then Elio will be talking about the decodable readers to support reading success with some of our younger students. During our time today, we're going to talk a little bit about award next steps, talk through specifics about the decision points, and then recap next steps as we move forward. So just a recap of where we are to date. You thankfully completed those confirmation surveys. I know there was a really quick turnaround. You received your award notification last week. and had just a few days to do the recommitment to the assurances for all the awards. Please note this was preliminary and there's still opportunities if you decide as you go through the webinars that maybe you are not wanting to take that award on. So there are opportunities there. We'll discuss that as we go. Today, we're focused on program onboarding as a kickoff webinar. There will be likely some additional materials that we send out, especially when it comes to print, because we have to get a lot of detailed information to ship you the right materials and make sure that you have what you need. And then the next part that you will be doing, just to come back to that, there will be onboarding going on for all the decision points. They started yesterday and will continue through early next week. And then as well, there will be opportunities to get support with the e-grants application. And I'll just give you a quick look at the calendar. So we're here right now, which is print access for decision 2B and 2C. As you can see, there are more decisions. We have another webinar after this for looking at digital access, and then tomorrow a few more webinars into next week. The e-grants webinar on Friday is really a big overview, and then you'll have an opportunity to participate in any office hours moving forward where you can ask your specific questions regarding the completion of the e-grants application. So, and Elia, please let me know if there are questions. I'm probably going to go through some information and then I'll pause to take a look at questions, and we'll try to get through as many as we possibly can today. Okay, so let's really jump into this piece about print materials for 2B and 3C as part of the TCLAS. And so I wanted to bring you back to what types of print materials are actually available. So as you can see, there are core or that tier 1 high quality instruction materials that are approved products listed. So we have pre-K through 12th grade in our reading, language arts, and math. And then there are some K-5 science materials. There is Spanish materials available for different grade levels. And then for 3C, we're really talking about those decodable texts, and it includes printed student and teacher kits that you applied for. So I'm going to start us off by talking about a deep dive into 2B to make sure that we understand, and then I'll pass it over to Elia and she'll talk through the 3C components. So for our core products under 2B, the print materials ordered are going to contain the components that are required for successful implementation. And so this will include things like your teacher guides, student materials, trade books for our reading, language arts, and even even science. And then manipulatives in many of the grade levels for math, as well as science materials. This does not include all the consumables, and we can share that information with you, but it does contain all those components that would typically come with a print package of materials. If you'll be able to see and access the inventory kits for each product. And so we'll be able to share that with you so you can get down to greater detail, but wanted to give you a high level overview of what's included, but you can see it for each of the products, and we'll be able to share that out a little bit later. I do want to share one piece on there that's really important to see. If you can see the K2 Spanish language arts and reading, that is coming a little bit later, and so you couldn't order for the full year now, but I'll talk about that in just a moment. But really, you have a good picture of what is going to be available for print requests. To get into 2B, there were two options for print access. The first was LEA grants for reimbursement, and this was materials purchased prior to June 2021. What we'll be doing, and I'll go into greater detail here, but you could have indicated that you've already spent funds to purchase the materials yourself, and that you would like to receive grant funds as a reimbursement for that purchase. And I'll talk through how we're going to look into being able to support with that. The second option was an in-kind award for print, where the materials would be used for future implementation. And so just LEAs that indicated they needed print for future implementations were awarded this. This was for if you requested for spring 2022 or summer or full year for next year. The in-kind means that TA will purchase materials on behalf of your district and have those shipped to you. And I'll go into a little more detail with that. So I do want to remind you that as part of the acceptance of the awards, you accepted these assurances that you acknowledge that the print orders are from products on the approved list and that they are for the specific units and full year products provided by TEA. And I'll share a little bit more as we go about what that means with the specific units and full year products. For the first option in receiving print materials was the grant for reimbursement. So if you are receiving grant funds, TA is going to complete the following steps to confirm that you've met the insurances. So we will release a form that requests purchase information for approved products. And you are going to, all the LEAs are going to complete that form outlining what you purchased for high quality instructional materials that were approved through decision 2. And this includes things like the volume and price of teacher and student materials, kits by grade, and the total invoice amount. So you'll need to, wanted to preview that with you so you can find that information for that reimbursement request. We will then review your purchase and confirm the purchase with the vendor as part of this process. What I wanted to show you is a quick timeline here that for the reimbursement request, we are doing our onboarding webinars now. We will release a purchase confirmation form by October. You'll have an opportunity to look at that form and then complete it by the end of January. So you do have significant time to make sure you have all that you needed, fill that form out, and then we will in the spring make sure that we're confirming the purchases with the approved vendor as part of the grant award. Before I'm going to quick check some questions before I move into the second option to see if there are questions regarding reimbursements. Okay, I'll get to the CRIMSI piece in just a minute. So again, if you received, if you applied for the 2B and requested reimbursement as part of the full year materials, you would be completing this order form, and then we would work through the process of just confirming, but you do need to have details about what was purchased and the total. And then I see a lot of questions about this purchasing piece. If you can see, we would just need to have that information in October. And so making sure that you have worked through the process of already working with a vendor, that's what the reimbursement is for. Give me just one moment. I think I'll answer some more of the questions that are coming through. For print materials and requesting that we're supporting you with future implementation, this in-kind award, if you're requesting for future implementation, we will also have a process for completing an order and shipping form. And so, for example, if there were some slight adjustments that were needed and confirmation about the numbers that you requested, we can make some slight adjustments to those numbers. However, the awarded funds have already been designated, so we'll work together on that. In the order and shipping form that we'll be sending out, we will need contact and shipping addresses. You are able to give multiple campuses. So if you're wanting to have materials shipped within your district to different campuses, we can make sure to do that. So you're indicating what that is. And you'll have to give us the number of teachers and students at each location. Make sure that you're requesting if it's a unit material or for the full year based on what you are approved to request. Once we have that, we will be reviewing that form in alignment with the TCLAS awards to make sure that those numbers are together and the amounts match up. And then we will be confirming order and shipping to make sure that we have all the right information and you can sign off on that before we actually process the order in order to have materials shipped directly to you. We are working with the vendors to negotiate rates and purchase and to ship these materials on behalf of LEAs. So part of this process will be in working with them to make sure that we're getting the best rates to ship your way. To give you a quick overview, there are some different print opportunities. So there is a spring. So some of you requested materials for spring of 2022. That was for a unit pilot. And we will have materials that are specific to that pilot and the use of those units for each of those products. If you are not interested in the unit that we are providing, then you are welcome to print locally to use a different unit at that time. We'll have a specific unit and I'll share when that information is coming out. The second type group of shipping orders will be the summer unit pilot. And so you may have requested that you want to do a summer pilot, which is also a smaller subset of materials. We will have recommended units that we will be ordering and having processed and shipped to you. Of course, you are welcome to do your own printing locally if that unit is not what you're interested in doing. And we'll have that information as quickly as possible to you so that you can make those decisions. And then lastly, you will be able to request print materials for the full year product for 22-23. And the reason we say that is because to order and ship, it takes a bit of time to do all this processing. And so it isn't a quick turnaround that you'll get materials. Once you place an order, it's not going to turn around in a week. We don't yet have that for printed high quality instructional materials to work very much like Amazon. So we're still working on moving that as quickly as possible with the publishers. But because these are Texas specific materials, they're requiring a special printing and shipping as the materials have finalized and are ready. I want to jump in here for just a moment to show you an overview of when you should expect materials based on what the particular pilot was or the particular unit you were requesting or the full set. So just to mention for spring, we actually have 2 spring pilots. And the reason being there's an earlier and a later spring pilot. Somewhat has to do in relationship to the end of year STAR exam so that you're able to do the pilot not backing up to STAR testing. So we're starting the pilot earlier this year for those of you who participated before. It will happen in February, but we have a later pilot for some materials that are going to be ready a little bit later. So our K2 Spanish foundational skills will be part of that later pilot because the materials will be shipped just slightly later and received in February to ensure that you have that to try out for this year. All the other materials will be ready earlier and could be received in January. This is for a particular unit, and we will be following up with another webinar that helps to outline the spring pilot and the unit recommendations and guidance there to be able to place your orders and complete everything so that we're able to ship and send to you in January for you to begin a pilot starting as early as February. For the summer unit pilot, we'll have a later webinar that talks about the summer unit pilot and what those recommendations are. You'll be able to order those materials at that time. And then summer materials are going to be placed, and we're looking to have those shipped to schools by the end of April to help with your summer pilot starting, and some of you start very early in June, as we know, so we wanted to make sure you had those materials ahead of time. And then lastly, you will have an opportunity to complete an order form in the beginning of January for the materials to be placed, for the orders to be placed, and then shipping to occur early in the summer so that you have the materials ready for your full year implementation. Just want to give another quick overview is that it's important to note that print materials require standard lead time requests. So completion of order forms by deadlines is required to receive the materials on time. In many cases, as you know, shipping of large quantities in these products can take 6 to 8 weeks, depending on the materials. So print delivery dates may vary just slightly, but we're trying to set those up so that you have materials in advance of any pilots are starting and have an opportunity to explore before you begin. So just a quick overview of the spring 22 pilot. We will be ordering materials shortly, and they should be received in January. The summer will be, we will look to order by mid-December with a arrival in probably late April. And then for full year, getting a spring ordering with delivery in June. Before I jump into passing it to Elia to talk about the decodables, I see there's lots of questions. So let me pause and give me just 1 second to take a look. If you are in, one of the questions that I'm seeing on here is if we are in CRIMSI, if you've already have print materials through CRIMSI, do you need to participate in TCLAS 2B? You do not. You've already received the materials for the year, but you might be asking to expand to other grade levels and contents or add additional teachers. So you could have done that for future years. Happy to answer those questions separately on an individual basis, depending on the district, and I'll share my contact information later. The question, I think I've already answered the question about the timeline, and we'll share that out again. I'll put that slide back on so that you can see that this is the overview of the timeline for ordering and when print materials will be received. We do need to check against the funding that was awarded. So the number piece is going to be dependent on the amount awarded. And so we'll need to check on that. If there was any questions about a changing slightly of numbers, it is going to have to equate to the overall award amount. And so we can work with you on that as well. Yeah, there's a question. Of course, some of you are participating from CRIMSI, and you know the challenges in printing and shipping. That's why we're trying to make sure these orders are happening quickly here. If you have not received your materials in Crimsy for a particular reason, I can drop in the email to request support with that. If these are not as a part of that, this is a separate order, so it won't impact your orders if you've already made some adjustments as part of the Crimsy pilot. Yes, so another question I see is if you selected summer materials, those are specific units that are intended to be targeted towards a summer program. And so they will be very specific to that time. In those materials will not be the full set. It will be a unit that is tailored towards the summer learning time. So I have a question of if we didn't purchase for June of 2021, before June of 2021, but we do want the materials and maybe were awarded for the 21-22 school year. In the order form, you can request that. I will share with you that the quickest you would be able to receive those materials through this process is January. Even if you've placed orders and you have not received them, then you still are eligible for the reimbursement. Happy to connect Stephanie directly and be able to, or if there were additional questions you had there. Do boards of trustees have to approve the products like a new adoption? That is contingent on your board policy. So that is a local process that you should probably check with to make sure that you're following your local policies. As Jean, the question about inventory, I think that you're asking in relation to what you need to do for allotment funds and EMAT. I would suggest that you're, of course, inventorying all your materials that you're spending funds on, but that is not something we will be looking at state level in accordance with allotment. What we'll be looking for here is that as part of the allocation of the grant in what you're ordering, but not a follow-up to this. But I would suggest, and if you need some support, there's lots of supports out there for inventories. Penny will have to connect directly about your concerns about numbers. I have to look into that. For this particular, there was a question about if you did not check in-kind awards. The printing besides the 21-22 year was assuming in-kind awards and that we would be ordering for you. So you didn't necessarily have to indicate that. The summer units will likely be different than last summer, was one of the questions. If you participated in Crimsy, the materials have been updated and improved from last year of the initial release. So they could be slightly different. I don't yet have those units to share with you to be able to compare them, but I'll talk to the team about that. Okay, I'm gonna keep looking at the questions. I'm gonna pass it over to Elia so she has enough time. As Elia is going through this, I'm gonna continue to look through the questions, and then at the end, I'll try to follow up with anything that I've missed so far. So Elia, I can drive if you want me to, and you just tell me what you need. Oops.
So yeah, that sounds great. If you don't mind just jumping through slides while you're doing Q&A.
And I will jump into decodable texts for learning to read and print access for that. Okay, go ahead and move to the next slide. Okay, so I just wanted to give a little overview of what's included in the Learning Dynamics Texas program. So here are all the components. You'll receive a program guide lesson manual that includes 55 lessons, flashcards, music CD, 35 full color decodable books, student workbook, rewards. And these are like pop-out rewards for each lesson, and then access to the Learning Dynamics virtual learning companion. And just want to stamp that these resources are meant for students in pre-K4 through grade 1, and really will serve to help our struggling students or students just learning to read, so our early readers. Melissa, you can go ahead and click forward. Also, through TCLAS, you're going to get access to the virtual learning companion site. And the site will include program introduction videos, training modules for parents/caregivers and educators. And it'll include virtual lessons for students and a decodable book read-along interactive videos for students, and the ability to print those lesson manuals and those books and student activity books and flashcards through the site. What's great about this is that you'll have access to this site starting spring when those resources arrive, the print resources, all the way to August 31st, 2023. So you have access to this site for the summer through school year 22-23 and the summer of 23. So what we're going to ask for y'all to do when we send out our print access order forms, we're going to ask for you to kind of think about, like, what is the model, implementation model that you want to provide your students with? Is it at home or is it at school? I said that backwards, at school or at home? So for at school, an educator is going to deliver the instruction. And what you'll do is think about, okay, how many classrooms do I have that we're going to use these resources in? And how many students total? And really thinking about your pre-K through grade 1 students. Or at home, we're going to think about how many students need this resource to use at home. They're not receiving access to learning dynamics in the classroom. So that's what an at-home resource would work for. Okay, Melissa, you can go. Oh, so the recommended pacing for the program is 20-minute lessons every other day. So full program completion takes about 6 months. These resources are in production right now. The Learning Dynamics Texas edition will be completed and final come spring, and print resources will arrive, thank you, will arrive mid-spring, around April. So you can decide you can start implementation of the program in spring, you can start it in summer, you can start it at the beginning of school year 22. So it's up to you. So what will happen is, and you can stay on the timeline, Melissa. So what will happen in October, November, we'll send out emails to the TCLAS point of contact, and they'll complete the order forms for kits, basically telling us how many classrooms, how many teachers, how many students. And then we'll have, those orders placed, we'll coordinate everything, and then those resources will arrive at LEAs and family homes in April. And then you can choose when you'd like to start implementation of those resources. And as I mentioned before, Learning Companion site, you'll have access to that all the way until August 31st, 2023. Okay, we can go to the next slide. Great, so next steps is we're going to ship all these things to you guys. You'll need to complete that order form. Do want to note that districts can adjust your kit counts, but the changes cannot exceed the total awarded amount that you've learned about already. So, and as I mentioned, print materials will arrive mid-spring 2022. The only program requirements you have is just to commit to using all these resources awarded through this decision with Fidelity. Included on the slide is some publisher contact information. You're welcome to email the publisher directly if you have questions about the program. Sales@ldreading.com, and they have a website up, www.learningdynamicscurriculum.com. Okay, so I'm going to take a peek at the Q&A to see if there's any questions that come in for me. Okay, so I see a question. I'm going to answer it live. Can you confirm that it is for pre-K 4 through first grade in English? Yes, the resources are all in English. We will provide the lesson manual translation in Spanish, but the resources are for English. Are you sending the order forms to the superintendents directly? We have 2 points of contact. Whatever points of contact we are given for TCLAS, we'll get this email. So if it's more than one person, then it'll go to both, unless Melissa, you have another.
No, that's true. It will go to the point of contact that was part of the TCLAS. And then in the order form, you will have the opportunity to designate if there is a different point of contact, especially if for print orders that are going to separate campuses, making sure to have a point of contact for every place that things will be shipped.
Thank you, Melissa. Another question I want to answer right now is confirm that decision 3 is for schools serving pre-K 4 through grade 1 only. This is for any LEA. You can serve more than one grade level, but the resources are really specific to students in pre-K through grade 1. Hope that answers your question. And great, I don't have too many other questions coming through for 3C, but feel free to add more as you need. Melissa, would you like to answer any more questions live related to 2D? Sorry.
Yes, so just to be clear, there was another question about the combination of models. So I'm assuming that's with the kits, the at home versus in class, and being able to, can you do a combination?
Okay, so yes, so just want to describe the program and how it works. So if you're using this resource at school, the way the program works is the educator is going to get guidance on, provide the lesson, whole class or small group. And then through the program, as students progress through the lessons, there's actually points in time where students earn decodable books to take home. So those resources go home, they do not come back to school. So if you're using a model where the students are receiving instruction at school, the students are also getting these resources sent home. If you have students who are just primarily receiving instruction, not in the classroom with their teacher of record, then that is a scenario where you'd want to have an at-home kit. And that is, the at-home kit is inclusive of everything you would need to teach one singular student. Does that help answer that question? And feel free to ask additional questions if you need some more clarification.
I mean, I am going to jump to next steps, and then I'll come back to some additional questions that have come in and try to answer as many as I'm able to, as we can answer at this time. So just want to remind you that this support is a heavy lift intended to have a large impact. And so we know there are some challenges in trying to figure out what are the awards that are best to accept for your students and your communities. And it's designed really to have a lasting impact on learning acceleration, but it does require significant amounts of time and effort from your staff. And so I just want to share with you again, if it hasn't been clear, that if after today's webinar, you do not believe that this is the right fit for your district, then you do have the opportunity to come back and say that you do not want to accept the award, and there's still opportunity to do so. And so I'm going to try to answer some of the questions, but I just want to share with you, we understand the reality of that. And although it is wonderful to have funding and supports for what you're trying to do, there are some commitments to make sure that you're supporting students, and we understand that, and there's opportunities still if you are not able to commit to the particular assurances or requirements with any decisions that you are awarded. Just a quick next steps is that you completed your confirmation survey. So yay, we just got through the initial onboarding. We will be sending back some additional steps so that you have the order forms that you need. They will be following up as soon as we're able to. There are additional webinars, one after this regarding digital access for some of the decisions. And then starting tomorrow, I saw a lot of questions about this, but a request of what about supports for using these instructional materials in print? Those decision 2A and 2C, we have some webinars tomorrow on that. And then starting Friday, we will have an e-grants webinar so that you can see the e-grants application and are able to get some initial information with follow-up of office hours to support you as you complete those applications. Just a reminder that if you do have questions and we're not able to answer, and we will try to post more information on the TCLAS page of the TEA website. You can always email us at tclass@tea.texas.gov. If you do have specific questions regarding 2B or nuances about your participation in CRIMSI, you may email me directly at melissa.lautenschlager@tea.texas.gov, and I will work to respond to those as quickly as possible. We have about 15 minutes left. I'm going to use this time to work through some of the questions. So bear with me as there's lots of questions. So I want to make sure I will try my best to answer some of those. I see one question. I'm thinking this is more about the decodable readers. Can a district order a hybrid model at school resources and some at home supports? So you can order a combination of the kits and you'll have an opportunity. We have to stay within the awarded amount. And so in the order form, you'll be able to look at that calculation to support you if there are slight adjustments that need to be made. For the other webinars, they're on the TCLAS webpage. There's a registration links for all of the webinars that are happening. I'll try to drop it in, but it is on the TEA website. We have a specific page for this. There are not at this point Spanish decodable readers. So this is an English product. I understand we're looking to have as part of the print materials for our K2 Spanish foundational skills, but that's a little bit different than these decodable readers. They are not available in Spanish at this time. In your survey or when you got your award amount, it should have said under 2B what you were awarded in. Were you able to do spring, summer? It was indicated, you indicated that initially, and then we indicated if you were awarded, and I believe it was in your, when you received your award notification. Okay, trying to answer some more. There's a question about trade books. Clarissa, you might want to email me directly. If they are part of the high quality instructional materials core instruction, then you can get reimbursed for print orders there. But if they are trade books in general and not part of the approved products, that is not something that the awarded funds can be used for. The summer units are, so I see a question here about, will summer units count for 30 hours of accelerated instruction required by HB 4545? They are not intended for credit recovery, if that's the question. These are intended for core instruction during a summer program. So they may not meet the requirements of HB 4545 in the sense of the tutoring and providing additional instruction. Happy to talk more about that if you want to email me directly.
Hi, I'm going to go ahead and answer one question about the Dakota's program. Asking if the program is supplementary. Yes, this resource is intended to, Learning Dynamics Texas is intended to be used in coordination with a core program. It is not intended to be used as like your primary phonics program or foundational literacy program or your core RLA program. It is supplementary.
Okay. I see a lot of, I'm going to try to answer just a few more questions. Can decodable readers be used for our summer school program? Decodable readers are a supplement. They are not intended to fulfill like a full phonics program, but they could be used in coordination with the work that you're doing. That is up to you in supporting students that need additional supports and use those decodable readers as a supplement. The sessions, oh, go ahead, Elia.
Oh, sorry, Melissa, just since we're talking about decodables, there's a question about learning dynamics and what will be available in Spanish for 3C. I'll go ahead and answer that question. The resources in English, the student-facing resources is supporting students in decoding in English. However, the lesson manual will also be translated in Spanish for the convenience of teachers.
A lot of people have asked where will recordings and additional information if you missed anything. I'm dropping a link in the chat. This is for the main web page that contains information related to TCLAS. We will put those up as quickly as we can with that additional information. For the order forms and additional next steps, we will be sending out communications with the point of contact indicated on TCLAS, and then from there you'll have the opportunity to designate other people if you're needing to. Decodable, the only thing that I see a question about reimbursement for decodable text in Spanish. Reimbursements are only available as part of 2B, and therefore the products that were listed as the approved products. So you can request reimbursement and use of your allotment funds always through EMAT if you need to do that, and access your allotment funds through that disbursement process. But that would not be as a part of TCLAS. I have a few more minutes to answer some questions. So again, I understand you're asking for Spanish materials, so that I want to go back to one slide and share which things are available in Spanish. The decodable readers are not available in Spanish. They are only. When you go to, forgive me for going back in these slides. If we look at this particular overview for what things are available in Spanish, the integrated pre-K materials are both English and Spanish. For K-5 math, we have Spanish student-facing materials. There is a Spanish language arts and reading program for K-5 with the K-2 foundational component coming later this spring. And then the K-5 PhD science is also available for student and family-facing Spanish materials. This is what reimbursements, you can request reimbursement for use of TCLAS awarded funds. If you're looking for reimbursement for materials, you can also access your designated allotment funds if necessary through the typical EMAT process for reimbursement. If you've already received funds but you requested for 2B and you've have print materials but didn't actually purchase those, maybe you participated in CRIMSI, then you would probably not want to accept the 2B award for 21-22 for reimbursement. You wouldn't be processing that order. So there's questions about the data. We're not requesting any data for these particular decision points. So you won't be asked to submit data. The only information that we'll be requesting is in the reimbursement and giving us details of the costs associated with any invoicing with vendors. There's a question, Elia, about is there a way to take a look at what this product might look like by going to the website? I can bring that back up and give Sam.
I dropped a link to the website. You can message the vendor to ask for a sample of some of the decodable readers. Right now, the resources in production, Learning Dynamics Texas is in production, so we don't have any Texas version of the resources available for sampling. However, you're welcome to ask the vendor, the publisher vendor, for some samples. I also think I saw another question about training for 3C. So yes, we're going to also send some information about some asynchronous training modules that go along with this Learning Dynamics resource. We'll have like a getting started webinar and a couple of implementation asynchronous trainings that will be given. In addition to that, since part of TCLAS, access to that virtual learning companion site is there, there's going to be additional training modules there. So there's lots of opportunities to learn about the program and prepare for implementation.
So I know some of you are asking to go back. We will be posting these slides, so you'll be able to see the timeline for additional questions or to take a look. We'll also be sending out some additional information to help make sure that you have the correct order forms and that you're able to request what you need to.
Melissa, there's a question here about e-grants requirements for 3C. Since these are in-kind supports, is anything required? My assumption is no.
I don't know the answer to that, but I will look into it and get back to you. If Yeah, the question is, who should attend the webinars that are coming up for the spring and summer unit? My suggestion is who's overseeing either the print materials ordering as well as supporting the district, but you'll have an opportunity to share that point of contact, and we'll give some additional updates on who's the best attendee. There was a question about the full year print option for next year. Yes, you were requesting print as part of TCLAS for next year. There is not at this time a way to request print for next year. Addition to this for TEA to support. You can, of course, purchase that and use other funding if you want to, but the awarded piece has already been determined through the TCLAS process. If people put in award at requested materials as part of the 21-22, but didn't actually purchase yet, you'll have an opportunity to request materials for the full year, but it will be a later date that you'll be receiving those print materials. Okay. Any questions that we were not able to answer during this time, we'll work to put additional information on the website and be able to share that out with you, as well as share the next steps for completing the ordering and signing up for any future webinars. We will again be posting slides and the recording to our TCLAS page. Appreciate your time today. I know there's still a lot of questions we may not have answered. We'll work to get that information up to you as quickly as possible. I'll go back really quickly so you can remember that if you have questions, please always contact us at TCLAS. If there's something specific regarding the 2B print materials or CRIMSI in particular, please feel free to email me directly. Appreciate your time today, and probably I will see some of you at the next webinar. Have a good day.